Welcome back to Mark's Garage. I am sitting on the 2024 Honda Goldwing. Feels good to do that. We're at a time of the year where riding is effectively over here in Wisconsin where I live. I'm about 1 hour north of Milwaukee, about 1 hour south of Green Bay. It's going into Thanksgiving week. And so I thought it would be really good to share with you what I do where I live, this part of the country, for winterization on my 2024 Honda Goldwing. That's coming next. All right, for those of you who live in climates like Florida, Arizona, California, maybe even down in Tennessee, in that area where your climate is much more temperate, you're not going to have to do a lot of winterization and storage, but what I want to talk about are the things that I'm doing here. And I'm holding up here my key fob to the Honda Goldwing. And these batteries in here, they're the CR2032 battery. And they typically last on average about every other season. So when I get to the second season, and I'm there right now, I like taking my battery out, the old one, put a new one in. That way I'm not going to have any alerts. I'm not going to have any things pop up on my dash. I'm not going to have this flashing. And the other thing I do, especially if I'm going on a longer trip, is I'll take a 2032 battery. Not that they're not available at a gas station or whatever, but it's certainly convenient to have one on board if I'm doing like a week-long trip. But it's a good idea to go ahead and replace this battery and then cycle your key fob on and off, make sure everything's working. And then when you're done with that, and if you're going to store the bikes for several months, go ahead and turn your key fob off. That will help with some of the battery life. At the end of your riding season, if you have a riding season, one of the best things you can do to protect your investment, because the Honda Goldwing is not inexpensive by any means and you want to protect it, the best thing to do is do your end-of-season oil change. I use the Pro Honda 10W30, that's the spec on the bike. This is the synthetic. I like using synthetic oil. I think there's some good information out there that recommends synthetic, but whatever your preference is. And of course, Honda Genuine Parts. This is the spin-on oil filter. And since I have the DCT version, there is also a DCT filter. And honestly, working on your own bike, working and doing all that just meticulously and doing it well gives you a lot of peace of mind. And in reference to some of these maintenance things I'm talking about, I really need to recommend, if you haven't done so, please check out Cruisemans Garage, his maintenance video series. I bought his video series when I had the 2018 Goldwing, and it taught me a lot about the bike, how to do things, all the maintenance, and it's just a terrific package. I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out with Chris at Cruisemans Garage. Just does a great job, and so I can recommend highly that you check that out. So we talked about doing the engine oil crankcase change out. It's always good for your motorcycle to sit with fresh oil rather than oil with some contaminants in it. But at the same time, you're going to do that, you might as well go ahead and change the final drive oil. My recommendation on final drive follows very similar to what Cruiseman does, which is every other oil change. I think that's a great strategy. But if your Goldwing is brand new, I recommend changing that final drive out at the first oil change for sure, because even though Honda doesn't recommend it, that's when most of the metal and the particulates, as that gear assembly really runs in, that's where you're going to get the most noticeable discoloration and particles. And I think getting that out of there is a real good idea. So anyway, every other oil change for sure, your final drive. So we talked about the key fob, we talked about the main battery, but the battery tender, and I've got this hooked up right now, and it runs back here to my plug-in over there. But every bike that I've got in the garage is on a tender, and I just have had excellent luck. There's a couple of tenders on the wall there. So it's really important. I highly recommend, while you're storing your bike, use the battery tender. I know that's a brand name, but it's a battery maintainer. Today's maintainers just work so well in terms of recognizing the health of the battery, only charging slowly when it needs it, and to maintain the health of the battery. So please consider, make sure you get yourself a battery tender. All right, so we covered the key fob battery, and a good idea to replace that every other year. But what about the main battery on the motorcycle? Well, I can tell you that batteries on motorcycles vary in terms of their age based on how you take care of it. So if you've got a battery tender connected to it when you're not using the motorcycle, that certainly helps, and it extends the life of the battery. But typically, from those who I know and my experience with all my bikes, you're talking about a 4 to 5 year window where batteries will last. I did have my 2017 BMW RT. When I changed the battery on that, that was a little unusual. I was able to get 6 going on 7 years there. So that's highly unusual. But today's batteries also, they'll work up to a point. You might have an issue or two. You'll hear it not being able to start well. That's a real key, because you don't want to be stranded somewhere, and unless you've got a jumper or you've got a the ability to be able to make it back home or to a dealer. So one of the things after several years that I do, so I usually target about after 3 years, and I've got this device here. This is made by Battery Tender. It is a battery tester, and so it allows you to hook up 2 leads to the battery. You put it under load, and it provides a test to basically give you the health of the battery, where it's at. And it's a good thing to do if you're suspecting that your battery is getting old or older, or maybe you have a sign of, ooh, that seemed to turn over a little bit slower. So for winterization, putting the bike away, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and test your battery. You can also do it in the spring when you're ready to come out, but you don't ever want to be stranded. So think about testing your battery 3 or 4 years old. All right, so when you're doing your end of season checks, you want to just take a look at your tires. It's a really good idea just to give them a quick inspection. How does the tread look? Check out where the tread indicator depth is. And then related to that, in terms of brakes, you definitely want to just take a quick look at how the brake pads are looking. Typically, if they're wearing out, you're going to hear a little bit of you'll hear some audio that will tell you that, ooh, I should take a closer look at that. But it's always a good idea. What I find is that the rear tire wears just a little bit faster than the front, and you just want to give it a good visual, make sure there's nothing in it, and it's fairly easy to do when you're putting it away. There are a couple other fluid checks that I think are really fast to do, easy to do, and they're important. And we talked about brakes a little earlier, but here's your front brake reservoir, and there's the little window. Just take a look at it. Make sure it is at the proper level. It's very easy. I think it's pretty rare that you're going to need to add brake fluid, and if your level is low, you're going to want to check out why that is. The other thing that I want to mention about the front brake, and that is right there where that line comes out, there's a product called Bullet Brake, and a number of folks in the Goldwing community, Cruiseman and Robert and Mac at Gold Rider One have installed the bullet brake, and I think that's a really excellent product. You're going to want to check it out. I'm going to probably add mine this year. So you've got the front brake. You also have the rear brake reservoir, which is right down here. And so just check those levels, make sure that that's good. And then lastly, on the other side of the motorcycle, left side, right there, so just in front of the saddlebag, you have this cover. You can pop that off, and you just want to check your coolant tank. Just make sure that that's up there, and that's right behind here. So that really should take care of you for the most part. And check those fluids. All right, so one of the last things I do, putting the bike away, right here, I do some fuel treatment. I like using Sta-Bil, and it's been something that I've been using for a long time, but you know, putting that in, running it for a few minutes, topping the tank off, really has worked out well for me. So if your bike's going to sit for months, you definitely want to treat the fuel. And certainly if you're using the unleaded 87 octane, because that's typically got some ethanol in it. So anyway, Sta-Bil, put some in your fuel. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mark's Garage, learning a little bit more about what I do with my Goldwing based on where I live. And there's probably some other maintenance things that you do. And if there's value you see and maybe suggesting a couple other things, please put them in the comments. Be great to share that, because that's what this is all about. Sharing some process, sharing some technique about how to properly store your bike, the Honda Goldwing, over the winter, and how to really take care of it. So thanks again for watching. Really appreciate that, as always. And until next time, take care.